All right. Welcome back, everyone,
Yes, welcome back.
for part two
Part two.
of our deep dive into modern Indian history.
Exactly.
We're going back to the 1920s.
Back in time.
Yeah, a time of intense debate
Lots of debate going on.
about India's future.
Big questions.
Big-
Huge questions about the future.
Exactly.
Yes.
And specifically,
She said it.
we are looking at Jinnah's 14 points.
Jinnah's 14 points.
So these demands,
Laid out.
laid out in 1929,
1929.
played a pivotal role in shaping the
Political landscape.
political landscape and
Yeah.
ultimately,
The partition of India.
the partition of India. So,
It's a big one.
big one.
Big topic.
So think of this as a crucial piece of the puzzle
Absolutely.
for any UPSC aspirant
Yes.
or history enthusiast out there.
If you are fascinated by history,
Yeah.
you gotta know this stuff.
Exactly.
This is
Very essential. Okay.
Should we jump in?
Yeah, let's jump in. So we've got this fascinating document
It's fascinating.
labeled mass66.pdf.
Wow. Sounds very official.
It does sound very official.
Very official document.
That breaks down each of these points,
Bring it by point.
gives us some context.
Some background.
Yeah, and explores their impact.
We're going to unpack all of that today.
We are going to unpack it all for you today.
All right.
So why don't we start by setting the stage?
Yeah, let's set the stage.
So Jinnah didn't just
Come up with this.
come up with these demands out of thin air.
No.
Like, where did this come
Yeah,
from?
and what was the context?
What was going on?
Okay, so
Yeah.
Jinnah's 14 points were
Yeah.
a direct response to the 1928 Nehru Report,
Okay.
which was an attempt
Yes.
to draft a constitution
Truthful.
for an independent India.
Ooh, okay, so big stuff.
Huge.
Ambitious stuff.
Ambitious stuff.
A constitution for an independent India,
And Jinnah.
representing the Muslim League at this point,
Okay.
proposed several amendments to this report.
Particularly focusing on safeguarding Muslim interests.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
these amendments were rejected?
Oh,
Rejected.
so they said,
No.
no, we're not any of that.
Any of your safeguards for Muslims? That
Well,
seems
that's a pretty big,
Pretty big deal.
big deal.
And so that rejection, you could say, was a
Turning point.
turning point.
Big turning point.
Yeah.
It pushed Jinnah and the Muslim League
Yeah.
to solidify their demands,
okay.
leading to the formulation of these 14 points.
The 14 points.
Okay.
So that's the background.
All right, so let's dive into the points themselves now.
Let's dive in.
Yeah, so what's really striking
Yeah.
when you look at these points
Uh-huh.
is the emphasis on federalism
Yes.
and provincial autonomy.
Provincial autonomy.
Okay,
Yeah.
very important.
So points 1, 2, and 3 really hammer this home.
It's like they're saying,
Yeah. What are they saying?
we want a system,
Where provinces have more power,
more power,
more control over
their own affair.
their own affairs. You know, we don't want
Yeah.
to be completely dictated to
Yeah.
by the central government.
They want some power.
Want some autonomy?
Autonomy for themselves.
Absolutely.
Okay, and if you think about the context,
Yeah,
this makes a lot of sense.
it does.
There was a real
There are
fear
many Muslims.
among many Muslims
Yeah,
about being
and lies.
marginalized in a
Not
large
great.
Hindu majority.
It's a majority, India.
Yeah,
So they saw decentralization
as a way to
protect their interests
protect their interests
and ensure their voices were heard.
make sure they were heard.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
That concern about representation
representation.
comes up
Again.
again and again in the 14 points, right?
Absolutely.
So points 4, 5, 6, and 7
Okay.
are all about ensuring adequate Muslim representation
Okay.
in legislatures,
In the
elected bodies,
elected bodies,
and government positions.
government positions,
They want to be everywhere.
they want to have a say
Yeah.
in how the country is run
Yeah.
at every level.
Okay.
So to Jinnah and the Muslim League,
Yeah.
it wasn't enough
It wasn't just enough.
to just have independence.
Okay.
They wanted safeguards.
Safeguards.
They wanted mechanisms in place
to prevent
their community
Yeah.
from being politically overwhelmed.
politically overwhelmed. So there was a
Yes.
real anxiety
Yeah.
about their future
in a post-independence India.
in a post-independence India.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then, of course,
Of course.
we get to point 8.
Point 8, which is
Probably
the most well-known,
well-known.
controversial. This is the big one.
This is the big one.
Separate electorates.
Separate electorates.
Yes.
So can you break that down for our listeners
Sure.
who might not be familiar with this concept?
Okay. So
What is this?
imagine a system
Okay.
where Muslims
Okay.
vote only for Muslim candidates
Okay.
in designated constituencies.
Designated constituencies.
So separate
So the rectorate's only voting
for Muslims.
for people from their own community.
Okay.
That's essentially what separate electorates meant.
Okay. So it's like it's a way
To ensure.
to guarantee Muslim representation.
Okay.
So Jinnah believed this was necessary to guarantee that representation.
Okay.
But as you can imagine,
I can imagine.
this demand was incredibly divisive.
Incredibly divisive.
Yes.
Why is that?
Well, critics argued
Yeah.
that it would further entrench
And Trank.
communal differences,
Okay.
Solidifying
A them versus us mentality.
them versus us,
Yeah.
Muslims versus Hindus.
Okay.
Instead of trying to bring people together, it's
Yeah.
almost like it's pushing them further apart.
It's like driving a wedge between them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really does make you think, doesn't it?
It does.
Was this a genuine attempt to secure rights?
Yeah.
Or was it a step towards further division?
Yeah.
I mean, even today, we wrestle with these questions
Absolutely.
of representation
And
identity politics.
big questions today,
Big questions.
as they were back then.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
the debate sparked by this demand
Yeah.
continues to resonate.
It still resonates.
Oh, yeah.
To this day.
Think about
Yeah.
current discussions about minority representation,
Okay.
affirmative action,
Affirmative action.
the role of identity,
Yeah,
political systems.
political systems.
Like, how do we balance
Yeah.
all these different factors,
These competing
competing interests,
interests.
and identities?
Oh.
So the echoes of Jinnah's point 8
Point 8.
are still very much alive.
Still very much alive.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So moving on.
Moving on.
Point 9
Point 9.
focuses on protecting minority interests
Okay.
from legislation
Okay.
that might be seen as harmful.
Harmful to minorities.
Harmful to minorities.
Okay.
Okay. So it's about safeguarding
Safeguarding.
cultural
Culture.
and religious practices.
Religious practices.
And this feels particularly relevant in today's world.
Oh, it does.
It's very relevant.
Very relevant.
Imagine
Yeah, imagine.
you're part of a minority community
Okay.
and a law is passed that you feel
That you feel.
infringes on your cultural practices
Yeah.
or religious freedoms.
Okay.
This point was all about ensuring,
That minorities had a way
yeah,
to challenge such legislation.
they had a voice.
Oh, they could speak up and protect their way of life.
Protect their way of life.
Exactly.
Yeah, and there are a lot of parallels today
Oh, absolutely.
with debates about religious freedom laws,
Religious freedom laws,
dress codes,
dress codes,
minority language rights,
minority language rights,
all of that.
all these things
So the spirit, the point 9, is still
very much alive
alive
in these discussions.
in these discussions.
Yeah.
Now points 10 and 11.
Okay, 10 and 11.
They get a little more specific.
A little more specific.
Okay, so they zoom in on particular
Geographic reasons.
geographic regions,
Yeah.
emphasizing the importance of maintaining
Maintaining.
Muslim majorities
Okay.
in Punjab,
Punjab
Bengal,
and the NWFP.
the Northwest Frontier Province.
Northwest Frontier Province.
Yeah.
For those unfamiliar.
For those who don't know,
Yeah.
the
At
acronym.
least they have acronym. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
And there's also the demand
For separating Sindh
separating Sindh from Bombay.
from Bombay.
Okay.
These points,
They highlight the strategic importance
strategic importance
of
of
these regions,
of these specific regions,
Yeah.
both politically
politically
and
and
economically,
economically. They reveal a desire,
to ensure that Muslims wouldn't just be
a scattered minority,
a scattered minority
within a larger India,
in a larger India,
but would have
but they would have some areas
some areas
where they constituted a majority.
yeah, where they were the majority
Okay.
and could exercise greater control
Over their own destiny.
over their own destinies.
Oh, okay. And then rounding out the 14 points,
Okay, last couple.
you have points 13 and 14,
13 and 14.
which advocate for religious freedom
Religious freedom
for all communities,
for everyone.
for everyone, and the protection of
Muslim.
Muslim cultural and educational rights.
Cultural and educational rights.
Yeah.
It's interesting how these points try to balance
Yeah.
the desire for safeguards for Muslims
Okay.
with a broader commitment
Burner commitment
to religious freedom
for everyone.
for everyone.
Yeah.
So it's like they're saying,
Yeah.
we want to protect our own interests,
Yeah.
but we also recognize
The rights of others.
the importance of religious freedom for everyone.
Yeah.
It reflects
It reflects that complex reality.
the complex reality.
Like trying to build a nation
Yeah.
where different communities,
often
with competing interests,
Yeah, competing interests
can't coexist
coexist peacefully.
peacefully.
Yeah.
Now, the document we're looking at uses the phrase
Mm-hmm.
parting of ways
Parting of ways.
when describing the impact of these demands.
Yeah. Ominous.
Ominous.
Yeah.
It's pretty ominous, don't you think?
I think so.
What does that tell us?
About the long-term consequences.
About the long-term consequences.
About Jinnah's 14 points.
Yeah, where did this lead?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, it certainly suggests that these points,
Yeah.
well intended to protect Muslim interests,
Also contribute
to a growing divide
a growing divide
between communities. Yeah.
They laid bare
The deep-seated anxieties. And conflicting visions. Yeah, different visions for the future.
for India's future,
Yeah.
in a way.
Yeah.
They planted the seeds
They planted the seeds.
for what would eventually become
The partition.
a partition of India and Pakistan.
Of India and Pakistan.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you can see Jinnah's 14 points.
They're more than just a historical document.
They're not just some dusty old piece of paper.
They're not.
They offer a window
A window
into the
for
complex
political
and social dynamics
of pre-independence India.
yeah,
And they continue to raise questions
that are relevant.
that are relevant to us today.
Absolutely. They challenge us to think about
The meaning of representation.
the meaning of representation.
The balance between individual and group rights.
Individual versus group rights.
And the ongoing struggle.
The ongoing struggle.
Real struggle.
Inclusive and just societies.
Inclusive and just societies.
Yeah.
Big questions.
Big questions.
And if you are preparing for the UPSC,
make sure you can analyze the long-term impact of these points.
absolutely.
Because they were truly
A pivotal moment.
the pivotal moment in Indian history.
Absolutely pivotal.
And for all our listeners,
Yes.
whether you're a history buff,
History enthusiast.
or just curious about the forces
Yeah.
that shaped the world we live
The
in,
forces that shaped our world.
take some time to reflect on Jinnah's 14 points.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Reflect on it.
You might be surprised at how much they resonate
Yeah.
with the challenges and debates we face today.
The echoes are still there.
The echoes are still there.
Yeah.
All right, and don't forget to like and subscribe
Like and subscribe.
for more deep dives into history.
More deep dives coming soon.
All right, see you next time.
See you later.